Hi, Dave here for video 3 of 5 videos on chapter 17 of Swing. Now, I wasn't successful enough to get this one video done within the 15-minute YouTube time limit, so I broke it into part A and part B. This is part A, and we're going to focus on labels, color, and introduce Layout Manager, and specifically we're going to look at border layout and flow layout. We'll continue on with part B with grid layout and JPanel. So key concepts covered between part A and part B of video 3 will be JLabel, color, layout managers, and JPanel. And a key concept I'd like you to think about is the idea of loading a box where you have a bunch of loose items and perhaps other boxes. And those boxes themselves could have other boxes and other loose items. So I want you to think about boxes within boxes or containers within containers. This is a key concept with GUIs so that we can pretty much generate the look of any GUI that we desire. Second key concept is going to be visibility of getting at these GUI components from within our listeners. We're going to look at passing references to our listeners through constructor arguments when we create the individual listeners. Other observations: Oracle is doing all of the work. We are using all of their many classes and methods in their libraries and packages, and pretty much we're just assembling instances of them and calling their getters and setters. They did a nice job of uniform naming conventions to make it easy to get and set properties. Last observation: Eclipse helps us with method completion. When we put the dot at the end of an instance name, Eclipse will show us all the possible methods that are available to us. We can scroll down and easily pick one that seems to be what we want. We can verify it is the one we want by going out looking at JavaDoc. Okay, a label. A label is an object of the class JLabel. Text can be added to a JFrame using the label. The text for the label is given as an argument when the label is created. After creating the label, we'll add it to the JFrame. So here we want to create a label with the text hello. So I created a greeting instance variable of type JLabel and set it equal to a reference from calling the JLabel constructor where I gave it the hello string. After creating greeting, I added it to the JFrame. If I decide I'd like to change the text on the label, I can always call the JLabel instance with the setText method and pass it the string that I would like it changed to. Color. In Java, a color is an object of the class color, and color is going to live in the java.awt package. Though we can create our own colors, many different shades, there are constants in the color class that represent a number of basic colors. So here I'm going to create a button, and on the button I want Dave, give us a quiz. And then I want to take that button and set its background color to red. And this is pretty much the way we will set the background color of any GUI component. There is a method called setBackground, and we'll give it a color constant or an instance of color for whose color we want as the background. This applies to every component except JFrame. A JFrame cannot be colored directly. Instead, a program must color something called the content pane of the JFrame. So the background color of a JFrame can be set using the following code: get content pane. And then on that returned reference, we're going to call set background and the color we want to change it to. Now, Savage in Absolute Java shows us a lot of the constants, but I say, hey, it's easier to use Eclipse to find these out. For example, if I go to the colored window class, let's say I just come in here, and I type color and hit the dot, it's going to show me all the different constants available that I can put into color. I don't have to remember these. The other thing I can do is click on one And you can see that the color reference was underscored. So I clicked on it to get the hyperlink. And I can scroll down the Java doc and see in Java doc all the colors that are available to me. So with Eclipse and Java doc, they're immediately at my fingertip. I don't have to remember all of these names. So here we're going to play with JFrame in color. We're going to create one instance of a JFrame that's pink and one instance of the JFrame that's yellow. So we have a colored window class going to extend JFrame, so we inherit all the capabilities of a JFrame. In the default constructor, I want to turn around and call the 1R constructor with the color pink. In the 1R constructor, I want to start off by calling super to give a title to my JFrame. I'm going to set the size to have a width and a height, a default close operation of exit on close. And here's where I set the background color in the JFrame. I have to get the content pane and then call set background color and pass it a color. I create a demo colored Java class that calls a main method. In the main method, I first call the default constructor. You remember that was going to create us a JFrame instance with the background color of pink. I then create a second instance that I'm putting in a variable W2, and I want to pass it the color yellow. So let me remove that little piece I put before. And now when I run the demo colored window, we see the two windows come up overlapped. We had the pink no-R constructor and the yellow 1R constructor. Now let's go talk about containers and layout managers. Multiple components can be added to the content pane of a JFrame using the add method. However, the add method does not specify how these components are to be arranged. To describe how multiple components are to be arranged, a layout manager is used. Now there are a number of layout manager classes. The three that we're going to look at are border layout, flow layout, and grid layout. Now note, if the layout manager is not specified, a default layout manager is used. And our first example is going to be a border layout manager. And this is going to place components that are added to a JFrame into 5 different regions, or can go into 5 different regions. The regions are north, south, east, west, and center. A border layout manager is added to a JFrame using the set layout method. For example, if I want to set the layout, I'd call set layout and give it an instance of a border layout. So note, we're giving it an instance. Here pictorially trying to show what the regions are. So we have border layout dot north. It's going to stretch across the entire width of the screen and just take up the height needed by the particular panel or components. Similarly, border layout south will stretch the width of the screen, the width of the JFrame. We also have a west, a center, and an east. And these also will stretch to fill the available space. So this first example is going to have 3 labels. We're going to put one label in the north. So see how it stretches across the entire width of the JFrame, taking up only as much height as needed by the label. We have a second label we're going to put in the south. And then we're going to put the third label in the center. And note how the center is going to try to stretch itself to fill all the remaining spaces to the east, to the west, to the north, and the south. So we have a border layout JFrame class that extends JFrame. That's a good practice. In the constructor, we're going to call super and give it the title that we want on the instance. We're going to set the size to be 500 by 400. We're going to set the layout to be an instance of a border layout. Then we're going to create the 3 labels. So I create my first label, I put it in the north. I create the second label and put it in the south. I create the third label and put it in the center. Now the order I do these in doesn't matter. I create my main application where I created the instance of a border layout JFrame and made it visible. Now, a previous slide showed the arrangement of the 5 border regions with north, south, east, west, and center. And I had lines on that diagram. In reality, none of those lines are actually shown in the diagram. When using a border layout manager, the location of the component being added is given as the second argument to the add method. So here I'm showing that in red. Then I'm adding label 1 to the north. And as I said before, components can be added in any order since their location is specified. And keep in mind that the components do stretch to fill the room allotted to it. So that was border layout. The flow layout is the simplest layout manager. So we'll set a layout by giving an instance of a flow layout. And it's going to arrange components one after the other, going from left to right, top to bottom. And components are arranged in the order in which they are added. And each component can be of different size, and the size requested of the component will try to be satisfied. Now, since the location is not specified, the add method has only one argument when using the flow layout manager. So for label 1, I'll just call add and give it the instance. Here's the example. I have a class flow layout JFrame going to extend JFrame. In this case, I'm calling super but not giving it the title. Instead, I'm going to call set title and give it the title. Either one is a fair approach. I'm going to call set layout. I'm going to give it an instance of a new flow layout. Now, order does matter with flow layout, so I'm going to create label 1, then add it to the JFrame. Create label 2, add it to the JFrame. Create label 3, add it to the JFrame. Right? So they're going left to right, top to bottom. And each component is going to try to keep their natural size. They are not stretched. So here at the top we see the display. First label, second label, third label. And they are center aligned. We can control whether they're left justified, center justified, or right justified by going out to JavaDoc for flow layout and looking at the constructors. And we'll see the second constructor allows us to specify an argument. And that argument can be left, right, or center. Down below, I'm showing where I call set layout to a new flow layout where I'm giving it the argument flow layout dot left so I can get the buttons left aligned. So that concludes part A. In part B, we'll go on to grid layout in JPanel.